welcome again to another Ref Show. We have Brian Deane and Keith Hackett on the panel this week. We have talking points from the weekend games, not just in the FA Cup, but quite a few in the Championship as well. We have a debate to kick around, something to kick around. What would happen? What will happen? Will it affect football if Britain leaves the European Union? Just get thinking about that. We'll have that in the second part of the show. And we kick off with our campaigning issue of the moment on youaretheref.com. Abuse of match officials, particularly at grassroots level. And we have a message that is quite simply that match officials are not enemies of football. They are essential to football and they should be allowed to enjoy football like anybody else. Keith Hackett is running home that message and doing it quite forcefully because, Keith, you've written an open letter to Greg Dyke, the FA chairman, that's going to appear on the website this week.
Yes, I think that we know full well that in the past the FA have run campaigns, the Respect campaign, but I think it's died a death. And I think Greg Dyke has only got a few months of his tenure in office, and therefore I'm asking him, can he just grip it and probably resurrect it before he leaves office, this all aspect of Respect campaign. We're certainly losing referees because of it, and when you have an individual who has served in the armed forces in Afghanistan and says to us in an open letter to us that he was threatened more on a football field in England than fighting a war, if you like, in Afghanistan, then that really does bring the message over that we've got a problem.
He did indeed say that he felt more secure in some ways with his team around him as a serving officer in a trouble spot. You're shaking your head. I know you were nodding earlier, Brian, to what...
I agree. It's unbelievable. I mean, I don't think people appreciate how hard a referee's job is. You know, and sometimes when I'm coaching, I sometimes take the, you know, I'm doing the session, so I'm the referee. And it's like sometimes you can't even think, ooh, the ball's last come off to go out. You know, it really is. You've got to have a sixth sense at times.
And you say that, and there's a mentality to contest every decision, including a throw-in on the halfway line. That's what the message coming to us.
Yeah, it is, and I suppose from a referee's point of view, you have to have restraint with that, because you know if you're taking the session, then you can say what you want, but I think you have to be a good mediator as well as a referee.
One of the things that's come over most strongly to us is that an official within the Referees Association, the Sheffield Referees Association president, who used to be chairman, Paul Cooper, has openly come out and said, look, this is happening to me. And he's quite a big guy. He's 12 years experience.
Well, I was shocked when he emailed me to highlight his predicament, where in the 88th minute he's been threatened quite forcibly on the field of play, and then at the end of the game threatened again. And you know, if he at one stage was doubting whether he should carry on as a referee, then we know we've got a problem, because he's mature, he's an experienced official, he's well liked by players despite the threats that he's received. He's certainly done a superb job with the Sheffield RA in encouraging young referees to come through. And the game itself needs people of his calibre. And if we lose his type of officiating on a Sunday morning and he decides he's going to watch TV instead of getting out his kit on a cold, wet morning to referee two teams, then we're in a serious problem. And I think we are in a serious problem, and we can't continue to just brush over it, because the younger referees are coming into the game now 16, 17 years old, aspiring to get to the top. And therefore we've got to have a pathway of security. And I'm making a plea to some degree to the clubs in Sheffield particularly to behave. And for the Sheffield referees, if you like, through the Sheffield and County FA, Sheffield and Hallamshire County FA, to take a firm line when referees report these matters.
Well, let's hope they do, and it'll be interesting to see as well how the FA and Greg Dyke respond, and let's hope positively. And I'm sure they're aware of the issue. I don't think they've brushed it under the carpet. I just think, like as you say with your open letter, like most campaigns, they fizzle out, don't they? Yeah. You know. Okay, rounding up a few events at the weekend. not a great deal for us to consider. A lot of referees did very well. In the Championship, there were one or two highlights. Darren Bond was refereeing Cardiff's big victory over Brighton. That was 4-1. Standout incident there. O'Keefe of Cardiff, only a yellow card for what was a hurtling challenge on Calderon. Did you see that, Brian?
I don't know what the referee in those situations is thinking. I mean, the criteria is clear. He's launched himself, so his excessive force, he's committed a reckless challenge, he's fulfilled the criteria. I don't know what the assessor would say to that particular referee. You've got to have courage. And if you're going to send off, be 100% correct. But this was an easy one.
It was a live TV game. Was he inhibited by that to some degree? I don't know.
Well, he shouldn't be. In fact, when you're on TV, there's a greater, if you like, priority to make certain that you do apply the law, because you're sending the message across to other players and other referees that are watching that particular game.
One thing I noticed across the weekend is grappling is starting to be punished a lot more. I think there was at least one penalty for it. So well done referees on that, following leads that have been set in the Premier League. Neil Warnock, we have to mention, our columnist on youartheref.com, a new Rotherham manager till the end of the season, got a point from his opening game, but lost not unexpectedly at Burnley, 2-0, no disgrace there. First Burnley goal was a penalty. We can clearly see it is a penalty, Keith, but Neil's complaint is the referee's guessed. He can't see it from where he is.
Can I just say, I want to know how quick is Neil, because they showed it afterwards and you can see where where his vision, the referee's vision, is obstructed by a player. Yes. So he's obviously got word from somewhere that how could he see that?
I mean the whole aspect is that you expect the assistant referee to come in, and I suspect that over the communication kit he's actually said, look, that's a penalty kick, and he's moved towards the goal line to indicate that. I think Neil's point has some validity, and that is, you know, we talk about credible positions, and the referee was well off the pace, well away from it.
But he got it right, Keith.
He got it right through a process, but ultimately at the end of the day, the physical presence of the referee, proximity to play, is part of the selling process, and that's part of his role. So he left himself somewhat exposed to Neil Warnock's, I think, tongue-in-cheek comment, but the point was made, and I think the referee should take it on board.
Can I ask a question? Yeah, if you're, you know, when they're coaching and training referees, do they say, well, do they give them an area where they should have to cover, say, in the middle of the pitch, so that if something happens in that corner, they make a movement there. If it goes across there and there, they then do. So they're almost doing a circular movement.
Keith could talk for about 5 hours on this, but you've got about 20 seconds.
Well, I think the principles are that the shortfall in refereeing often that we see, and we've commented on here, is a lack of positioning and credible viewing angles to see incidents happening. And that is all down to this process of the movement, which should have somewhat a diagonal path, but come off that diagonal to gain proximity. But where referees, I feel, are lacking at the moment is this ability to put in a dynamic sprint to gain a shortfall in the area, and sometimes they're getting in the way of play.
That incident rather replicated a Brentford player being sent off at Sheffield Wednesday the week before, where it may have been the correct decision, but the Brentford manager, Dean Smith, complained the referee wasn't in a good position to sell it for sure. Finally, Fernando Forestieri of Sheffield Wednesday sent off, cost his team at Preston, down to 10 players, lost 1-0 unexpectedly. 2 yellow cards here. There was no complaints about the second one. It was a deliberate handball. The first one, though, was it a dive? Did he dive, and was he correctly cautioned for it, Keith?
When you're cautioning a player for an act of simulation, you're actually saying he's a cheat. Therefore, I think you've always got to be absolutely 100% certain that the player has dived. And those diving, if you like, offences are clearly seen because there's a gap between the player. If you've got any doubt as a referee, there's nothing to stop you to pull the player to one side.
Was there a doubt in that instance for you?
Well, I think that he does go down rather theatrically, and I think that he's left himself open to that interpretation of the referee. I'm just saying from a referee's point of view that you've really got to be absolutely nailed on to give that first yellow. And I think that there is a process. For me, you know, it's happened. It's not going to gain him much by what he's done on that initial one.
If it is a dive, he's looking for a free kick just outside the area.
Yeah, well, you know, give the free kick, get the player to one side, and tell him that you're not going to accept that type of play. There is a management process.
You can't give a free kick if you're not going to accept that. Okay?
Well, you're given a free kick that it's a dive.
Yeah, to
right?
the opposition.
Yeah,
yeah.
You know,
but
you don't
need the yellow card.
Well, I think on this occasion, it's the
think?
first incident that this player's committed this act in this game, pulling to one side and say, enough's enough.
Right, okay. He's a Wednesday fan as
I
well.
know, that's why I'm staying out of this.
You're best off. Right, rejoin us for the second part of the Ref Show. We'll kick around this Europe. Can we bring the European debate into football with these guys here? We definitely can. See you then.